Welcome to the Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast, bringing you the country's top podcast on the subject of internet marketing. I'm your host, Glenn Thayer, along with the CEO of Intuitive Websites, Thomas Young, and web marketing guru, Dennis McCarthy.
Welcome back, folks. Well, this week we still have Ray Cameron and Dennis McCarthy out on vacation. So, Tom, it's you and I. This week we are going to be doing a website review of the UCCS website, which is the University of Colorado at Colorado Springs. You can follow along with us at www.uccs.edu. Well, let's head over to this site. And, Tom, where should we start?
Well, I wanted to pick this website as a review podcast because college websites are very unique, and also there's a lot of lessons to be learned from them because of this uniqueness. And they're unique in that they have so much information that they have to offer to so many different types of marketplaces, and they have so much input internally within their organization from the different departments, the professors, the different stakeholders, the different leaders of the various departments. So because of that, they just end up being a very complex website with a complex set of objectives. And so, the question is then, can you take this and can you take this complex thing and make it simple and easy to use and have very clear navigation and clear conversion points? And the answer is yes, you can do that. And what I want to do in this podcast is lay out kind of the foundation for how you go about doing it. And really the best way to start with the college website and with any website, but in the college's case, is to look at your target markets and identify them clearly. So a college website will have current students, prospective students, graduate students, parents, relatives, friends, alumni, and a variety of other stakeholders. So you first identify those markets, and then do two things. Review what are the important needs of each of those marketplaces, and what are the important needs of the folks in the university or at the college. So you're going to develop a matrix of the stakeholders' needs and the students and so forth, and the needs of the people that are part of the college. And then from that, we're going to develop a plan or a strategy for navigation and for a sitemap and for key conversion points in the different pages. Because here's the thing about college websites. The content is important, but not as important as the content would be on a corporate website. And the reason I say that is because people know what it is that you're doing. I mean, they know the structure of the university. I mean, they know that you're a college, obviously. But the information that they need is more structurally focused, like applying for classes, getting their tuition in place, getting their financial aid in place, getting their housing in place.
Or being able to log into your online course.
You log into your online course, log into the student section of the site, do it easily. All of those things are more important than the content on your services and products that we would see on another type of website. So navigation is critical, and how you structure navigation is very important. And then how you have the conversion points within all those navigation systems. And conversion points are anything that moves the target market toward action or interacting with the site, whether it's as simple as a campus visit, to something as complex as registering for a master's program, whatever it might be. So I think that really the starting point is the planning of the navigation in the sitemap. And if you look at the current UCCS site, if you're in front of a computer, you'll see that immediately there's so many options for navigation that it becomes very complicated. Now, they've done a good job, I think, of simplifying and getting the key conversion point or key navigation points at the top. But then the rest of the site has multiple navigation systems, multiple types of navigation systems. So you have a tab section at the bottom, you have a navigation box at the right, and then more confusing of all is you have graphics, and you have it looks like 5, 6, maybe 7 different graphics that are also navigation. And what happens with this site, and it takes people a while to do this, is all the graphics are ignored initially as navigation. It's not until you probably visited the site 3, 4, maybe 5 times that you start to realize, oh, wait a minute.
There's a link that says apply here. I just saw that.
There's a link that says registration help. There's a link that says UCCS promise with a $sign. So all of these things on first glance will be ignored. On second glance, they'll maybe be seen, probably not. It won't be the third or fourth visit till people finally see, what does UCCS promise with a $sign? Now, the thing about the web, and one of the fundamental principles from simplification of navigation, is that people will not click on graphics that they don't know what they are.
Well, they look like advertising.
They look like advertising, and they don't know where they're going to go. So we know that from other podcasts. So number one recommendation on this website is to step back and simplify the navigation. And when you do that on a college website, you're going to have people that say, what? How could you take that off? You can't take that off. It's a link to something very important to me and all of my team members. Well, you've got to come back with the data to show people that, no, these are the most important links on the site. And to do that, you're going to have to review your stats in detail, and you're going to have to do some kind of user testing to build a case for what's the most important navigation on the website.
Now, taking a big step back, and we talked about this when we first started the podcast, we were talking about how complex college sites are in comparison to any other site. And a lot of it comes down to the stakeholders and the target markets. Because if you realistically start to break down the college system and just take a college, realistically, you've got a business that you're running, because clearly you
more than ever today.
You generate revenues with getting people to enroll.
Right.
So there's a conversion point there. So you have a sales aspect of the site. Then you have everything else. You've got athletics, which is huge,
and also a selling point for the site. So I mean, there's a multiple benefits that have to be communicated, and there's multiple stakeholders that have to see those benefits. For example, parents. I mean, parents play a very important role in getting their kid into a college, keeping the kid in college. All of those things are marketing points for this website, for other college websites. But really, focus on navigation toward the target market needs, and care, and don't be afraid to simplify the site and to say no to other folks in the university environment that might have very strong personalities and be pushing you to do this. If we looked at a few websites, and it's actually very difficult to find good college websites, but if you look at some of the major players in this industry, and I want to focus just on the homepage for now. If you look at Stanford.edu, very clean website with still a lot of information there, probably still too many navigation menus, but much more clean approach to a website, and UCCS can do the same thing. And now that clean approach is also a branding element as well. And one of the things we found, we've spent a couple years working in this area with Adams State College, Colorado College, and what we found is that the financial part and the registration part is absolutely critical. The UCCS website, it needs to be easier to find the financial aid and the financial section on this site. If you go to a website like Stanford, they do have this link that says show expanded menus, and I believe financial aid is right there under admissions on the third link. I like that, actually, expanded menus. I like how they did that. You're going to have sub-menus on a college website, otherwise you'll have pages that are way too long.
Well, you've got so many. I mean, how many pages of content can you estimate would be on a college website?
It's thousands of pages. It's thousands of pages, and the Adams State College website had thousands of pages, and you wouldn't think that from looking at the home page, but it gets very deep. And what I like also about the Stanford homepage is they use actual photos of professors, buildings. They have a little photo here on the page we're currently looking at of work art that is part of a program they have at the university. This is great stuff, and UCCS is falling back on some clip art photos in the interior of the site, and also some graphics that really distract from the website. So I encourage the site to do more with real photos of UCCS, and also maybe even some captions of what it is we're looking at, and what those photos mean.
And it's interesting because they've got two little clip art blasts here that show it's the America's Best, that they fall into one of America's best colleges for 2009, and one of the best graduate schools for 2010. Yeah. And they've been rated, and they've had that rating, but yet you go here and you're kind of confused on the organization of the site.
Yes, they definitely, the site needs some organizational help. I mean, also, once again, looking back at the Stanford homepage, it's very well balanced in its layout and its design. And that's just a very important consideration when you look at the homepage and you look at the branding and the trust that the site needs to do. It's definitely what the college needs to do is go and look at some major players. The cool thing about the internet is that Stanford may be doing some stuff on the inside of the site that UCCS can't afford to do as a smaller school, but not the homepage design. The homepage design, it's not rocket science. You can copy and mimic what some of the major colleges do.
Now, speaking of rocket science, if we go over to the MIT website, which is mit.edu, you'll see on the tech end, definitely they have it set up almost like a sitemap.
They do. It's very interesting that they did that. And they've also integrated, we talked about this in a previous podcast, they've integrated the experience of being at MIT into their website, which is, if you come to MIT, you're going to help change the world. And that's what they're doing. They're featuring different world-changing things that they do right on their homepage. And it's interesting also, if you go look at the website for Harvard Business School, another very clean design site. I mean, there's just not that much on the homepage compared to other websites. They also
and you can get there at harvard.edu, and then under schools you can go to the business college.
Yeah, Harvard, in the homepage for Harvard is also a very nice page. Now, what's interesting about all the sites we were talking about so far is it's a very different experience once you get inside the website and start looking at different department pages, because then you immediately start to see the pull. And what we encourage universities to do is keep a consistent look and feel throughout all the departments. And that's going to happen in your masthead and your navigation systems. Don't bounce the user around. It really is a disconnect. Colorado College does an interesting thing. That's another. I wanted to look at coloradocollege.edu because they are also here in Colorado Springs. They're not a direct competitor to UCCS in many ways because it's a different type of school. But they have a similar a marketing push because they're trying to get students in. Their photography on their homepage really focuses on graduation and the impact of graduation. I like to see that on a homepage of a college website, because what is the initial benefit that you're going to get? Well, one of the first initial benefit is graduating. And I think it's great for parents and for students to see that or experience, this is what my student's going to eventually go through, is this graduation process. The Colorado System website itself for University of Colorado is found at colorado.edu. And their site is also a little bit more simple on the homepage than the UCCS site. It has, but they do have a few more links, and they're using graphics and tabs in their link structure. It's interesting to see that they started with About CU, then they went to Admissions Academics, and there is no major button that I can see here to apply now, which I like to see on the homepage. I'd like to see a major button that gets people right into the application process, even if it just means you're submitting a form and having someone call you back.
Now, are they making some assumptions? Because if you click admissions, or actually if you just do the rollover to admissions, it says apply to CU. Yes,
admissions doesn't mean apply. Here's the thing also about college websites is the organization that creates the website gets so close to the site, and they start developing their own terminology and their language and their way of looking at the website. You have got to stay inside the mind of these stakeholders, these students, prospective students, high school seniors, and you've got to use their terminology and talk in a way that makes sense to them. The only way to do that is through user testing and to stay on top of what's happening. Another area too that we talked about earlier is the whole idea of social networking in colleges. High school kids right now, they all have Facebook pages. They all have MySpace pages. They all are communicating back and forth. As they start to go pick their colleges and they hear from their parents, their friends, their teachers, they're going to start talking about this. Where are you going to college? Why are you going there? They're going to be sending links back and forth and so forth. You do not want to have on these interactions, I like the school, but their website sucks. You want to hear, I like the school, and check this out on their website, how easy this is to do.
Are there any college websites that you know of that are integrating social media into it and inviting conversations in?
I haven't seen it yet. I mean, we've looked at, for this podcast, I looked at about 6 or 7 websites and haven't seen anything there yet. I mean, what a great way to get in touch with the 17, 18-year-old high school senior right now. And I think that really the bottom line is if you are responsible for a college website, you have got to go live in the world of the 17, 16, 18-year-old college or college-bound high school kid. And see what they're doing on Facebook. See how they're communicating, how they're texting, how information flies back and forth, and then tap into that and be a leader in tapping into that. And I think it will bring rewards to you. It's going to do a couple things. One is it's going to get you the marketing exposure you want, the traffic you want. But you're also going to be tapped into the network of kids that are the trendsetters, kids that are the drivers, kids that are the ones that are recommending colleges. The kid that wants to go to CU, Colorado University in Boulder, and is going to bring 3 or 4 friends with him because of the way they communicate on Facebook and how they interact. That's part of this social media marketing for colleges. And I would like to see, pages on your site that are almost landing pages for social marketing sites. And maybe they're blogs, maybe they're admissions, maybe they're places where you can apply, and it's really easy to do. And then tie all that into the application process, the financial aid process, and content information for parents, visiting the college, and so forth. There's lots of conversion points on the website.
Now, what do you think about putting there's been a lot of talk on the web lately, and a lot of this is more on the business end, but I think it applies a lot to colleges as far as putting a human face to it, because we all know that people do business with people. They don't do business with brands or business. When I buy a product or service, I buy it from a person. I don't go to the big conglomerate. If I'm going to go buy a Coke, I go buy a Coke from somebody. I walk into a store. I think
it's a great idea. I mean, I would love to see, like, for example, when I click on faculty and staff on the UCCS website, I do not see faculty and staff. The first thing I see is, really, the first thing that caught my eye was this whole little set of icons that I'm not thinking to click on those. I'm just thinking, what are they? And then I look down and I see some photos, science and engineering building, and I feel like it's a complete disconnect from what I would have liked to see here is faculty and staff photos with bios. Yeah. And I think it's a great idea. Put a face.
Apply. If you go to apply, I'd like to see a welcome from the director of admissions.
A welcome, and it with a photo
that says, "Hi, this is who I am. I'm here to make your experience wonderful.
And this is my team that's going to help me. This is how it works." If you go back, and in fact, there are several places on the UCCS website. I want to get this in, is that the navigation system disappears. So we've got to keep consistent navigation on all pages. You can't have the top navigation leaving any part of the website.
If you click admissions, it totally changes.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
And it's interesting because as soon as you click admissions, the site gets clean.
And it goes to a left-hand nav, which I think you should have on the home page for the site. But the faculty and staff, getting back to your point, I think it's a great idea to put a face on each department. And all colleges and universities are very clear in their departments. Everything's in a department. Put a face on that department and do an introduction to that person and explain how that person and their team can help you. Maybe it's athletics. Maybe it's theater. Whatever it might be. In fact, there's on the UCCS website, there's a scrolling set of banner ads here, and one of them popped up and said theater, and before I could even click on it or do anything, it was gone. So, I mean, you've got to keep consistent navigation. Avoid the scrolling text, avoid scrolling graphics, moving images, and keep it personal in nature. Build a relationship.
Well, do we have any other action items that we can that are suggestions that we can give to UCCS or any of our listeners?
Oh, this is huge. This is the kind of podcast where I might have just one action item, but it might take you a year to do that one item. and the action item for UCCS is to go back and do the research and homework to develop a new sitemap. Okay, and then the second part would be within that sitemap, develop your conversion points. And the conversion points have two things they need to do. One is they've got to meet the needs of the people that are on the site, the users of the site, and they have to meet the needs of the college and university. Huge action item, but very, very necessary. And then as I was going through this, I thought, part of that research has to be what other colleges are doing. Go look at other leaders in the area, also local competitors, and do user testing. Get your stakeholders on the site. What others can learn from all this, what other websites, because a lot of our listeners aren't college websites, is just how important it is to understand the objectives of the visitors to the site, of the users of the site. How important it is for you to understand your target markets clearly and identify them and segment them. And then the importance of navigation and conversion points in the planning of your site before you even build it or lay it out. If you do these things, then you can take a complex website, something like a college website, and you can simplify it and make it effective for all the different stakeholders involved.
Now, one thing I do want to go back with this action item, as far as the sitemap.
Yes.
Because for a college, especially like UCCS, clearly that is a massive undertaking. Where does one start? How would they start developing a sitemap? Because this is really key in moving it forward, because they have so many different stakeholders that are pulling different ways. Is this something to set out like a mind map, or what's going to be the best way?
Yeah, no, I think you start with identifying the target market, identifying the basic needs of each group in the target market, and then identifying the basic needs of each department, of each part of the university. And then from there you go in and you know your various departments, and you know what's important, to the user on a basic level. You go in and you start doing some user testing, and you probably do 6 to 8 users within each part of your target segment. And then after you do that, you go out and research what competitors are doing, and you'll really quickly find out they're running into the same issues you are. And then from that, you take a stab at it and you put together the sitemap, and you keep it. The sitemap should be, I'm thinking, on the level of 2 or 3 levels deep. At that point, you're not going to go much deeper than that. And then you take that sitemap and you build it into a first draft website and conduct more user testing, get feedback on that. And then, of course, you want to make sure you've got your stats program set up so you can monitor what's happening. If you look at stats programs for most college websites, what you'll see is huge migration toward a handful of links, and a lot of links that don't get looked at. A lot of extra stuff. Well, if the links aren't getting looked at, they probably can go. You could probably simplify navigation. That's probably the best way to simplify navigation, is go to Google Analytics, see what's not being looked at, and either consolidate or remove that information.
So one of the things that they can look at as far as the sitemap and talking about going like 3 deep, if you will, is almost thinking of each school, because a lot of these have different schools and different programs, as almost a microsite on its own.
Yeah, you do, but when you do that, just make sure that it's a consistent look and feel in the navigation and the placement of different things on the site. Now, you can have, I think if you want a unique look for a different department, use it with photography and use it with captions. But don't change your navigation system. Don't change your logos. Don't change. In fact, if you look at some of the athletic pages for like even a Stanford, they're completely different websites. They're completely different websites. I disagree with that. I think you can have your website content within the structure and the look and feel of the website in general. It's a branding issue.
So keep your branding and everything the same.
I would agree. Even for Stanford, if you go look at the different sports programs in Stanford, you're going to see some different websites.
Yes, it definitely looks like it actually looks like you logged on to ESPN or something.
Yeah,
to that
you do.
effect.
Absolutely. And you start to wonder, is this the right Stanford? The one thing I would like to see Stanford do, which I think UCCS does, is have your logo. Put your logo in the upper left-hand corner. And I don't think that's their logo, Stanford University. I think they have another logo that you see in the athletics and that you see on television. So I would want them to keep that consistent.
And they do have one last thing that I wanted to just mention is I was looking at the Stanford Sports website. They do have a little connect as far as social media. Connect.
They do.
On
Okay,
Twitter,
I haven't seen it.
Connect on that, and it just.
But it's
moved.
not on
what it was under special promotions and events, and it was, once again, we talked about that.
Oh, it's on the web, bottom. It's in the deadest part of the website, which is the bottom right-hand side. So they're not giving it a lot of credit, and it's not even in color. So you have to scroll over it to see the color, and that's not. It needs to be in color. So they're not giving it a lot of attention at this point.
But that way, people could get involved in that. And we talk about connecting with those 16, 17, and 18-year-olds that are in that demographic, especially if they're interested in Stanford sports.
Yeah,
that's the way to go.
Yeah, so I think the bottom line here is that this is a lot of work, and you can't have a successful college website by just throwing things together and getting it done. You've got to do the planning, and you've got to talk to the users of the site to bring it all together to make it work.
Well, folks, you heard it here first. College websites are probably the most challenging sites that we'll ever see as far as anything, as far as a daunting task on taking that on. So for all of you business owners that are listening, take a sigh of relief that you don't have to deal with admissions and sports programs at the same time.
That's right.
This has been an Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast. For more information and to see all the available podcasts and much more, visit intuitiveblog.com.